my talk tonight is Staying True to Yourself and God in Life and Sports, Spiritual Affirmations from a Winning Coach. So as I said, I'm now in my 13th year of coaching, and as a young teacher, at Wilmington, one of my dreams was to eventually become the head football coach at Wilmington Area High School. And 2 years ago, that dream became a reality. I started off, as I was named the head coach, studying leadership. And that study of leadership led me specifically to studying Christian leadership. Through that study, I established a set of Christian-based beliefs, and really they ultimately became for me life beliefs. I felt that in running the football team, we needed to have a set of beliefs that kind of governed what it was that we were trying to do and what it was that we were trying to accomplish, that went much deeper than just merely wins and losses. So I took these life beliefs, and I went ahead and I applied them to football. While the players may see them as football beliefs, they are beliefs that I hope our players will carry with them for the rest of their lives. You can see on the screen the Wilmington football team beliefs: vision, process, and love. And that's ultimately what I'm going to speak to you about here tonight. So the first one of the three beliefs, again, vision, process, and love. The first one is vision. I think no matter what you're doing in life, it's very important to have a clear and focused vision. And the vision for our football team and our football program is to glorify God in the pursuit of earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and winning football championships. I think that within our vision, that covers just about any scenario and any circumstance that anybody on our team could come across. To start off with the phrase, to glorify God, I think is all-encompassing. If a player does something on the team, it's very simple to determine whether or not that action is right or wrong. It comes down to a simple question: did that action bring glory to God? Of course, we want to help our players earn degrees, build lasting relationships, and we're certainly working towards trying to win football championships. I think that building lasting relationships piece can be seen by the fact that students of mine are sitting here in the audience tonight. So underneath our beliefs, we have a set of phrases that go and correspond to each of the beliefs. And our first phrase under the belief of vision is 440 forever. And that phrase represents the number 4, standing for football lasts for 4 years. We tell the players when they join the Greyhound football team, most of them in 9th grade, that football is going to carry them, and it's going to be here for 4 years. 4 years in the scope of life is a very short time. What they do with their academics in high school is going to carry them for the next 40 years of their life, and ultimately faith is going to last forever. You see, in our case, the number 4 applies to football, but in truth, that number 4 could be applied to anything. For us, it's 4 years of football. There's college students in the audience here tonight. It could be simply 4 years of college, or 4 years of whatever it is that you're involved with in college. But whether it's high school or whether it's college, the academics play the key role, and what you do academically should help to carry you through the next 40 years of life. That's the 4 and the 40, and in my opinion, the most important piece, the forever. Your faith in God will last you forever. Our second phrase underneath vision is focus on your vision, not your circumstance. This phrase applies, it seems, each and every day of my life to scenarios and situations that come up and I become involved in. The story of David and Goliath is one that's been told time and time again. David has to fight this unbeatable monster. And if you read the passage, the Israelites are all talking about the fact that they have to fight Goliath, this unbeatable monster. But yet David says, I will fight to give the glory to God. You see, David was focused on his vision. His vision was to glorify God, the same words that are found in our vision. And that was what he was focused on. The fact that Goliath happened to be this big, unbeatable presence, that was just part of the circumstance. Another example of this, another analogy that we share with the team is that there's 3 block layers. They're building a beautiful cathedral. And it's hot and they're tired. And the first one says, I'm miserable having to lay these heavy blocks. The second one says, I'm tired of laying these blocks and I want to go home. And the third one says, I'm building a beautiful cathedral. The third one, of course, focusing on his vision, not his circumstance. I think this phrase, focus on your vision, not your circumstance, is a great way to battle and to conquer adversity. Got a couple examples of this. One example for us, Wilmington, much like the team here at Westminster, is we're very fortunate. We've got this really nice, comfy, cozy turf practice field that we get to go on. But sometimes, for whatever reason, just like I tell my 2.5-year-old daughter, you have to share. And we've got to share with other sports teams or other groups in the school, whatever the case might be. We have to go down below to a practice field that's not nearly as comfortable and not nearly as nice. And as we're walking down there and I start to hear some of the guys grumbling on the way down, it's a very simple focus on your vision. If your vision is to try to win football championships, where we practice is merely a circumstance. And after a quick reminder of that, we're able to move on and continue with a productive practice. 2 seasons ago, my first year as head coach, we're playing Chestnut Ridge in the state playoffs. A team that we were probably better than, but for whatever reason, adversity seemed to find us that day. And the scenario is this. I see some college guys from the football team as well that can understand. On the game clock, there's 20 seconds, and on the play clock, there's 20 seconds. And I'm on the sideline, and I asked the official standing next to me, I said, sir, do we have to snap the ball, or can we move on to the second quarter? And the official on our sideline says, you do not have to snap the ball. Okay, great. We're going to run the clock down, flip the field, get to the second quarter. So as the clock runs down, it hits 0, and I start to move to the opposite end of the field. I see a yellow flag drop on the turf. I go out to the field to see the head official, and he said, that's a penalty, coach, delay of game. I said, whoa. I said, your own official just told me that we didn't have to snap the ball. He said, well, you should have known that you did. I said, but I asked the official on your crew, and he said that we didn't have to. It doesn't matter, coach, that's the rule, you should have known. As I start to kind of, lose my temper a little bit and sort of lose my cool, one of our captains, one of our players on the field, puts his hands on me and says, coach, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. So while it's great to have this vision, and while that should govern everything that we do as we try to achieve that vision, I think it seems a bit hollow to tell the team this is the vision, but to not give them a plan of how to achieve that vision. And that's where our second belief comes in, that second belief being process. So the process is the actions and the steps that we are going to take in order to achieve our vision. Under process, we have 2 phrases, the first of which, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. I'll read that again. See a little, see a lot, see nothing. And the idea here is about having a focus. If you see too much, it's very easy to become overwhelmed and to not know where to start. But by seeing a little and focusing on that, it actually allows you to see a lot. That allows you to get one thing done, and then the next thing done, and then the next thing, and it keeps you on task. Whenever I get overwhelmed sometimes, I think of my wife and the things that she'll tell me to calm me down. I say, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. When I'm at home telling her about the 50 things I have to do and, how little time I have to do it, sometimes she'll simply ask me, she'll say, Brandon, how do you eat an elephant? Always makes me chuckle when I know the answer she's looking for, one bite at a time. So, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. One of the analogies here that we share with the players on our team is that of a boxer. Boxers are not trained to get a knockout in round one. In round one, they're trained to cut the opponent. And then the rest of the time in that boxing match, the boxer spends his time attacking that cut. And for us on the football field, that's a personification of see a little, see a lot, see nothing. I do want to share a couple other examples here with this phrase. As I was talking to Dar Huey before coming up here tonight, I'm sure some others have seen as well. I believe that it was in the newspaper today, but we had a rather big appeal at the Wilmington Area School District regarding the PIAA in the classification of football we would compete in for the next 2 years. Between myself and the administrative team at Wilmington, I'm confident that we have over 40 hours of work into the appeal that was presented yesterday. To say that it was overwhelming is an understatement. As I was telling the coaching staff about that, one of our coaches, Coach Schenker, was sure to point out to me, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. Focus in on that one piece at a time. And by doing that, you can climb the mountain. The next phrase under process is humble and hungry. This is one of my personal favorites in all of our team beliefs. I believe humble and hungry applies each and every single day of our lives. In football, the word hungry represents the idea that we want to outwork our opponents. We want to stay hungry and have a burning desire within us to constantly be outworking anybody that we would step on the field with, to create that belief that we believe in each other and believe in the work that we've put in. Humble. One thing about the recent teams at Wilmington is that they've had success. But I believe that if they were to lose their humility, I believe that the success would stop. If they were to lose their humility and lose their hunger, that's when complacency sets in. And that's when other teams start to catch up with what you're doing. I think if you listen to our players talk after games or be quoted in the newspaper, I think that you'll often find that they try to embody those words, humble and hungry. I'll cite an example from this past football season. We played Hickory, tough non-region game on the road. We had a running back run for over 200 yards that night. Running for over 200 yards is quite a feat in one game in high school football. I actually happened to be standing on the field when he was being interviewed with the newspaper. And the writer kept asking him things about himself, and all that he kept saying was that I couldn't do this without my offensive line. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did tonight without the big guys up front who were blocking for me. And to me, that was humble and hungry personified. From Scripture, Colossians 3:12 states, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience." I think that anytime we can use Scripture to back up and reinforce our team beliefs, I think that it provides strength and validity to the message that we're trying to convey to our young men. I talked a little bit earlier about the fact that when you lose your humility and you lose your hunger, that's when complacency sets in and teams start to catch up with you. Scripture once again affirms that notion. Luke 14:11, "For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Once again, from Scripture, affirmation of humble and hungry. Our third belief is love. Again, if you're in the audience tonight, these beliefs are really what I apply to my life each and every day. And there's only three of them. There's a vision, a process, and there's love. It's simple things that I believe can be taken away. Even if you don't take away every one of the phrases or every one of the beliefs, you can take away one piece of it and apply it to your life. I think that we've accomplished the mission that Titan Talk is set out to achieve. The first phrase under love, and possibly my personal favorite of everything that I've talked about tonight, each of us needs all of us. I think there's so much power in these words. You know, one thing I look for as a coach is I want to see how our student athletes come together as a team. Now, you often hear the word chemistry in team sports. What's your team chemistry like? Well, as soon as we can get the members of the team to believe that each of us needs all of us, you're going to have great team chemistry. The guy that's a two-way starter or the guy that's a senior captain must believe that they need the young freshman on the team who's never played football before. It's amazing what can be accomplished and achieved when everybody believes in that phrase. In life, this can be applied anywhere, not just sports. This can be applied to a marching band, or this can be applied to a staff in the workplace if you're in a position of leadership. Getting folks to believe each of us needs all of us can truly move mountains. Three phrases under love, the second of which is everyone speaks the same language. We want all our people to be speaking the same language. Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Discipline is something that we preach each and every day, that we are together as a team. One of the languages we try to speak is a language of discipline. And our view is discipline does not mean, what are you going to do to me? Rather, discipline means, what are you going to do for me to help me grow and become a better person? I think one thing that speaks volumes, to our discipline is if you watch our team on game day, we'll go up against some opponents that before the game, they want to do some things that we don't really believe in. They want to come across the 50-yard line and maybe use profane language, yell and scream, and we just cite that we're all going to speak the same language, and that's a language of discipline. I think if you watch our players, that's the ultimate testament to this. Not what I'm sitting up here saying, but rather the actions of our team. Those certainly speak louder than words. I think they show that we're speaking the same language. If you look over the last 2 years at some of the t-shirts that the community has made and that the school district has made. Last year, as we traveled to Hershey, the t-shirt read, "Each of us needs all of us." This year, after we've won the District 10 championship, the t-shirt reads, "Humble and hungry." You can see that everyone is speaking the same language. In the last phrase under love, be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. What does this mean? This means that my head and heart should be where my feet are at. The analogy I share with our team, at 7 o'clock on Friday night during football season, I'm called at that moment to be the head coach of the Wilmington Greyhounds. At 10 o'clock, as I rock my daughter to sleep, I'm called to be her father. At 6 o'clock, when I eat dinner with my wife, I'm called to be a husband. And when I ask her how her day went, I should not only listen, but I should genuinely care about what she has to say. My head and my heart should be where my feet are. I think that's such an important thing to teach the young people that I get to work with every day. In today's society of cell phones and technology, it's so easy to see so many of them, buried in their phones. But teaching them, be where your feet are, being present, I think is so important. Along the lines with that example is during camp, we put a cell phone restriction on during lunchtime. And as I mentioned, the 3 students here tonight, 2 of the 3 would be able to vouch for what I'm saying. Okay, this is not just something I'm putting on a slide, this is something that we do. I want the players to be engaged with each other, not their phones. I want them to be present and to be where their feet are. There's some college students in the audience tonight, as well as some of my high school students. When you're in the classroom, and not to mention a middle school student as well. Whenever you're in the classroom, you should be where your feet are. You shouldn't be drifting, thinking about what you're going to do later that night, or what movie you might want to go see. You should be where your feet are. Where your feet are is where your head should be and where your heart should be. Our team motto is block by block. The analogy here is that building something block by block means taking it one step at a time. My wife and I built the home that we currently live in, so I'm very familiar with doing things block by block. On the football field, great things happen block by block, one block at a time, in the willingness to block for others. You see, in football, if you run a play, you hand the ball off to the running back. One player has the ball in their hands. The other 10 players have to perform selfless acts of either blocking for the one with the ball or carrying out a fake to draw defenders away. So when one person has that football, in order to have a successful play, his 10 other teammates must be performing selfless acts simultaneously on the football field. And we call that block by block. We say that one block at a time leads to one play at a time, which leads to one first down at a time, which leads to one drive at a time, which leads to one touchdown at a time, which leads to one victory at a time. Finally, our team word, which is relentless. We want to be relentless in all that we do. And how does that apply to life? Whatever your passion is, whatever your dream is, be relentless in your pursuit of making that happen.
My number one philosophy, and there's a couple track people here that could vouch for that, and they say I'm a liar sometimes. Train, don't strain. When you're young athletes, all you hear about is you have to give 100%. In track and field, our training philosophy is train, don't strain. We don't give 100%. Another saying that you hear coaches use all the time is empty the bucket. That bucket of energy you have to empty. We don't empty the bucket either. I know that seems counterintuitive to most what we tell our young kids. But in track and field, if you give 100% or 110%, you are not going to finish the race. Think about it, and we talk about the bucket of energy. If you dump that bucket of energy out, you're not going to get to the finish line. So we need to learn how to control our pace and finish workouts. For example, let's just say we give 100% on every single effort in practice. We're not going to finish practice. There's going to be an ambulance every day at track and field practice, because you have to control how you run and empty that energy throughout the entire interval or whatever particular thing that we're doing that day. The key thing also is, yes, you can go so hard, and some of you have probably done some workouts where you're really, really sore, and if you do that and you can't work out the next day, that's not good either. So our philosophy is train, don't strain. In order to run fast, you have to run fast. Yes, we've really worked on this one. This could apply to our jumps, our throws, our vaults, etc. We train specifically to our event. If I go out, or if say our 100-meter runner, who we want to run really fast for a really short time, and he goes out and runs nice, long, and slow, what he's going to do is he's going to be a better long and slow runner and not a very good fast and short runner. So we train specifically to our events. Again, so running long and slow will not get you fast, but running very fast and very short won't get you better at running 5K. So during our cross-country season, we are also not necessarily running really long. As a matter of fact, I've had kids come to me and say, "Coach, I'd like to run a marathon." And I am not real keen on that idea, because to run a marathon, you've got to train for a really long time, running at a specific pace, which is not the pace that we want them to run in a cross-country, in a 3.72 mile race for the women, or a 5-mile race for the men. So, in order to run fast, you have to run fast. Now, this is sort of not a universal philosophy. There's some back and forth that go on this. One of my favorite books ever that I read is called The Perfect Mile, and it chronicles the breaking of the 4-minute mile barrier in 1952 by Roger Bannister. Well, there was a couple other guys that were trying to do it as well. Now, Roger Bannister at the time was I believe a medical student. He had jobs, maybe he was married, probably had kids at the time in the 50s. They did all kinds of things very young. But he was also trying to break the 4-minute mile barrier. He was doing it running very specific to that event, running 400-meter intervals on the track, timing them. There was another man, an Australian man by the name of John Landy, who was also trying to break the 4-minute mile barrier, and he was doing it running 20-mile runs. And so they were both really good, and they were both really close. And it kind of brings me to when I was a young high school coach, and I was applying my theory of you've got to run fast to run fast. We would have another school, a friend of mine coached at another school. We were enemies. He and I were friends. Our schools were enemies. And he trained very different. They'd come over and use our track, where our guys would run like 3 or 4 400s. They'd have to run them at a specific pace, and they're like, and the rival school, who we battled back and forth, they would come over and run 20 or 23, or they had some weird number, 20 400s. And I remember my guys thinking, that would be the worst thing ever. And we were successful with it, but so were they. So there are different philosophies on that. This works for us. It works for the students that we have at Westminster, who are really busy. And if I kept them on the track for that long, we would have a team of about 6 people. Before I get into a little bit of coaching philosophy, I do have to say that coaching track and field is a lot like herding cats. So you've probably never heard of this particular job, but I do it on a daily basis. I had a cat for about 2 weeks, and cats do what they want to do. They kind of, if they need, they want to jump up next year, if they want food, they want this, they want that. But of course, cats are going all over the place, and that's what I feel like I do on a daily basis down there at the field house and track. I say that in a good way, but with busy kids and events all over the place. We have distance runners, we have throwers, we have pole vaulters, we have sprinters, we have hurdlers. Even in the particular jumps, there's all kinds of different things. So it is a bit of a challenge. But I learned a long time ago that coaching is teaching. And the two other tips that I talked about before about train, don't strain, and in order to run fast, you have to run fast. I learned from a very influential high school track coach who was an amazing coach if you were really good. He pretty much ignored everybody else. And I remember thinking, I love this man, but why didn't some of the other people on the team like him? Or why didn't anybody else really like him? And he was a little bit of an elitist. He took you under his wing if you were good. The problem being is certain people were good, but we never really built a really strong team. And but I was blessed with some really good high school coaches who were math teachers and social studies teachers and English teachers. And when you went to their class, you didn't talk football. You talked, you talked about the works of literature or Pythagorean theorem or the branches of government. It wasn't, football was not the subject when you were in school. So I certainly learned from that, and learned from the other guy who, he would walk through the halls and want to talk about track and field. And while I loved him at the time, I remember thinking, boy, there's a lot of other things going on besides this. But if my philosophy of coaching education started with some of those men in high school, it was forged here at Westminster College, where under some tutelage of great men, I really learned that coaching was teaching. When I had the opportunity to play football here, it was almost like there were warm-ups and lesson plans, and you didn't yell and scream, you taught. And that was certainly influential in my experience. And people joke about sometimes I lived in a little bit of a bubble coming to Westminster, this protective bubble. When I left Westminster and I went and coached at some other places, and I think Brandon kind of mentioned it, the guys crossing the 50-yard line and screaming and swearing, and I was on these staffs and I was like, oh my goodness, this is not how you do things. And so I was blessed to have some great mentors in how I believe that you're supposed to coach, and coaching is teaching. The funny thing about track and field, when you get together with past athletes and even people that you compete with, track and field, unlike other sports, where other sports you might remember these specific games, like, boy, remember when we won in the last minute or last second, or this play in football. Track and field, you tend to remember the bus rides, you tend to remember some of the trips, some of the breakdowns, all of which have happened to me here. Not just here, happened in my entire coaching career. It certainly has not been boring. I think back, and I'll just tell a story that made me think that, boy, is this how the rest of coaching is going to be? I was a young coach, first or second year as a head coach in high school, and we went to a meet in Columbus, Ohio, an indoor track meet. It was on a Friday. And don't you know it, we do pretty well in meet. I decided I'm all about experiences as well, trying to give kids as many good experiences as they possibly can have. We decided that we're going to go down High Street. This is in Columbus, Ohio, Ohio State University. We're gonna just drive by. It's 10 o'clock at night. We'll stop at one of the restaurants right there. So we park. It's me and I think 11 kids because we had a 12-passenger van. So we go eat. We walk back out. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock. Walking, looking. Where's the van? Where's the van? We get closer, no parking, tow-away zone. So we get towed. This is just at the beginning of cell phones, thank goodness. So I had a former athlete, I call him up. Boy, I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do here. So I take 11 high school kids to a college dorm at 10:30, 11 o'clock on a Friday night. We walk in there, a bunch of guys playing cards. I have freshman girls with me, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna get fired. So I take one of my athletes, the guy that I called who went to college at Ohio State. He has a car, so he takes us, and we get the number of the impound yard. We have to drive to the impound yard. We go in there. First of all, this first time, again, I talked about the bubble that I lived in here at Westminster College. Now I'm out of this bubble, and we go into, there's the junkyard or the impound yard, and bulletproof glass, and a guy behind there, and he has to open up a screen to talk to him. And so I'm like, that's my band, can I get it out? And he's like $120. I give him my credit card, cash only. So we have to leave. I take the kids, and again, we're in this dark, seedy side of Columbus, Ohio. Drive all around Columbus, you find an ATM, get an ATM back, pay the guy cash. We get back to the dorm, it's probably 12:30 at midnight. And little girls sitting on the dorm couch, like, this is so fun. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get fired. So anyway, that was my first story of adventure of something. This is a very unique experience coaching track and field. I think back on the good stories, again, the van breakdowns, the tents, we've had tents collapse and blow away, the spring break trips, the music, the stories, the things that I don't even want to know about that I end up hearing about that sometimes is unique to track and field. So during that whole, all these different stories, I decided that I need to start writing some of this stuff down. So I started a blog. And I'm just going to read a little bit about this, and then I'll kind of explain. 3 dirty jobs. I'm just going to read about the jobs. Job number 1. This is a sweaty, physical, painful job. There is travel and constant weekend work. It has an unimaginably inconsistent time schedule, and I work with very uncooperative coworkers. At times, I freeze and swear at the wind, which always seems to blow in the wrong direction. It is muddy, it is slimy, and it is also heartbreaking almost every single year. But I absolutely love this job. I love all that goes with it and the people that are connected to it. Job number 2 is dirty, it's stressful, it makes my clothes smell like dust, oil, factory. This job consumes way too much of my time. It keeps me up at night worrying. This job has me on the brink of being fired from job number 1. It may have been a final nail in the coffin of the breakup of my marriage. But I love the men who work there and the people surrounding it and the legacy that it carries on. And job number 3, no one tells you how dirty or hard this job is. You have to find this one out for yourself. I get yelled at constantly and talked back to. I repeat myself over and over and over. I have totally unreliable coworkers who either wake up too early or don't get out of bed at all until you threaten to fire them. I pick up things to find that I have to do it again way too soon, to the point where I wonder why I even bothered to pick things up at all. There is little to no sleep at times, and the job is not a 9 to 5. It never ends. Oh, and there is poop and puke. This is my absolute favorite job, and I would do it again and again and again. So, just a little backstory here. One day I was out at the steeplechase pit. Steeplechase is this big hole in the ground where there's water and people run a long way around and they jump over barriers and over this water. And it was probably mid-June, and I probably should have taken the little stopper thing out in May, and I didn't. So I was trying to get this stop route that now this water was black. and slimy and a mess. And I was reaching in and I couldn't get it, and I just kind of saw my reflection that had a little dirt on it in the water, and I thought to myself, does the head football coach at Alabama have to do some of these things? Does the head coach at Ohio State University have to really get in a muck and clean things up? And I just started laughing to myself, thinking that my life is pretty funny. There's a lot of funny things that go on in my life. The challenge, and I should backtrack just a bit, about 11 or 12 years ago, my dad passed away, and we had a family business, so I took that on as well, and we had great workers, so I didn't have to be there all the time. Basically, I just show in, sign some paychecks, this and that. And, but that job also leads, as I was saying, very difficult and tough just because of the stress of making sure that I can get everybody paid. But it's also pretty cool because I get to go to these amazing houses, see these amazing things. Sometimes I'm in these very dirty factories. I was actually even in a marijuana dispensary a couple weeks ago where they have these dark rooms and they needed them covered. There was a hole in one of the things, so we had to put patches on it. And I'm like, are you kidding me that I'm in this place? What a unique experience. And I leave there and I go to track practice with 18 to 22-year-olds. So kind of crazy. And then job number, my last job I talked about was being dad, which is a really great job. So one of our colleagues, Dr. Craig Kaler, comes and runs with the cross-country team sometimes. So we would run and we'd chat. And I had one kid at the time, and he, of course, has many kids. And we were about to have our second child, and we're running, and I'm thinking to myself, I love that one child so much. How on earth when you have another kid, how are you able to love that kid as much as you love this current kid? And Dr. Kaler explained to me, he's like, it just happens. And here I am, 3 kids later, and I understand exactly what he was talking about. But I tell you this now because I have 3 jobs, and I understand what he means just as much now with the jobs, is that I love my jobs just as much as I love my 3 kids. Well, maybe not just as much as I love my 3 kids, but you know what I mean. I've absorbed that feeling of loving the jobs just as much.